In Palestine, Israel's relentless genocidal war has so far destroyed over 70% of civilian institutions and infrastructures in the Gaza Strip. Also in Palestine, Lebanese militant group Hezbollah attacked two air control bases installed by the Israeli occupier. And Venezuela's executive vice president and petroleum minister met with a high-level delegation from the Mexican state-owned company PEMEX. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Recent studies revealed that at least 70% of civilian institutions and infrastructures in Gaza were destroyed as a result of the continuous air, land, and sea attacks carried out by Israeli occupation army. According to reports published by a non-governmental organization, Israel deliberately destroyed or caused severe damage to a number of essential facilities, including schools, industrial centers, hospitals, and clinics, mosques and churches, as well as press and media offices. Several residential buildings and houses were also among the constructions destroyed, resulting in the displacement of most people from Gaza Strip. The issue document denounced that the Israeli bombings seemed to be aimed at carrying out a collective punishment against the population and turning the area into an uninhabitable place for Gazans. Ongoing Israeli shelling make it clear that there is truly no safe place in Gaza, as attacks on the civilian population completely disregard allegedly safe zones. Our correspondent in the coastal enclave, Nur Harasin, with the details.
There is nowhere safe in Gaza. This is what we are on the ground witnessing here in the coastal enclave. Over the past days, the Israeli military have repeatedly asked and called the people of Gaza to head to Deir al-Balah and also to Rafah to take refuge. However, most of the Israeli attacks now are in middle Gaza and also in southern Gaza. A number of people were killed in Israeli strikes on the city of Deir al-Balah. Another 12 people were killed in an Israeli strike on Hayy al-Zuhur neighborhood in Rafah. And now, as we are speaking, actually, the eyewitnesses estimated that the Israeli tanks are only 400 meters away from my current location from the Shuhada al-Aqsa hospital, as now the Israeli incursion has reached Salah ad-Din road. And this hospital, actually, the Shuhada al-Aqsa hospital, is just located 400 meters away from Salah ad-Din road. So will this hospital be next? Should people evacuate? What is happening now in Gaza is not realistic. People panicked, people do not know what to do. However, for now, Palestinians are staying inside their homes in Deir al-Balah as it is a safe area. This woman who is crying is talking about how the Israeli snipers and the Israeli warplanes are attacking Palestinians in safe areas inside the Al-Maghazi refugee camp. Nur Harwazin, teleSUR, Gaza.
The Palestinian Journalists Union called on the relevant parties to pressure the Israeli authorities to facilitate the departure of journalists injured during the siege against Al-Shifa Hospital and to receive treatment outside the Gaza Strip. The statement came after Palestinian journalist Akram al-Shafi died of critical wounds caused by Tel Aviv attacks. Israel denied his medical transfer out of Palestine. The Palestinian Journalists Union stressed that his death cast light on the suffering of wounded journalists there. The union detailed that there are about 25 journalists in the Gaza Strip in need of urgent treatment abroad. This brings the number of journalists killed during the ongoing Israeli aggression to 103. Lebanese militant group Hezbollah attacked on Saturday two air control bases installed by the Israeli occupier in the north of the Palestinian territories. The Lebanese group confirmed it had attacked the Meron air base situated at the top of the Yarmak Hill, following the killing of Hamas leader Saleh al-Aruri in Beirut. The airbase coordinates and manages all operations that the Zionist armed forces directed to Syria, Lebanon, Turkey, and Cyprus. The Israeli military said earlier that about 40 rockets were fired towards the Meron air surveillance base and that it had responded by attacking a cell that had took part in the attack. There were no immediate reports of casualties or damage. In Spain, the movement of solidarity with the Palestinian people held a protest on Friday to denounce the complicity of transnational fast food companies with the Israeli genocide in the Gaza Strip. More details in the following report.
The streets of Barris district in Barcelona, under the slogan "Long live the struggle of Palestinian people and boycott Israel," the demonstrators denounced the support of multinational to the Israeli occupation in Palestine.
At this moment, we are carrying out an action with a double meaning. First, to denounce the genocide that is being carried out in Palestine with the complicity of the United States imperialism and the European Union. And secondly, it is a campaign of boycott against the companies that are collaborating with the Zionist state of Israel.
It is very important because these are the brand names, the companies that are funding with weapons and financial support the genocidal Zionist rulers of Israel.
In the so-called Unity March, different organizations participate demanding the Spanish state to break off relations with Israel, as well as to put an end to hostilities against Palestine.
It is very important that society becomes aware that there are some big companies of Jewish capital that we need to boycott. The economic power of Israel is very important, and it is also a form of struggle. There are many other forms of struggle to achieve peace in Gaza, in the whole Middle East. We need to work for peace and not for war.
The rallies will continue to be held across the Spanish territory in order to keep giving visibility to the Palestinian cause.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories are coming right up, so stay with us.
Deep gazes filled with struggles and stories. Struggles that transcend generation. Know the deepest realities through its protagonists on teleSUR documentaries. Sunday.
Welcome back from the South. On Friday in Caracas, the Venezuelan capital, Venezuela's Executive Vice President teleSUR Rodriguez and Petroleum Minister Rafael Tellechea met with a high-level delegation from the Mexican state-owned company Petróleos Mexicanos, PEMEX. The meetings were aimed at evaluating energy relations between these two powerful Latin American state-owned companies. Attending the meetings were PEMEX General Director Octavio Romero and PEMEX Prospecting Director Ángel Cid, as well as Mexican Foreign Ministry Representative Efraín Guadarrama. PDVSA Vice President and Venezuelan Ambassador to Mexico also took part in the meetings. The Venezuelan Petroleum Minister said that the companies will start working together for a shared promising partnership. The National Assembly of Venezuela ratified with a clear majority the current Board of Directors for a new legislative term of 2024-2025. On behalf of the ruling bloc of the Homeland, Deputy Diosdado Cabello recognized the merits of the Board of Directors headed by Jorge Rodriguez in terms of peace and security of the South American country and proposed to ratify Rodriguez as President, Pedro Infante as First Vice President, and America Perez as Second Vice President. The parliamentarians paid honors before the statue of the liberator and father of the Homeland, Simon Bolivar, in the park that bears his name in the capital. Furthermore, they also mentioned that in 2024 they will establish routes to maintain unity within the Homeland bloc in order to ensure the development and welfare of all Venezuelans.
The approval also of the pending laws of the People's Power to make them more dynamic. We have pending the approval in second discussion of the law of communes and a law that will bring the function of the communities closer to the new realities of our self-sustaining economy, based on enterprise and also based on the organized growth of our economy, the political and territorial organization of the community, along with their involvement in economic activity, is a fundamental element to be discussed in the new law.
The Court of Justice of Ecuador ordered this Friday the preventive incarceration of former Vice President Jorge Glass. Judge Felipe Córdoba granted the request of the State Attorney General, Diana Salazar, and issued the arrest order against Glass, who is presently in the Mexican Embassy in Quito, waiting for an asylum request to be processed. Glass said he will seek to reverse this case after the Supreme Federal Court of Brazil annulled the evidence used by Odebrecht, which has affected politicians of that country. The former vice president spent 5 years and 4 months in jail after being sentenced to 8 years in a bribery case for which there was no solid evidence. Bolivia on Friday reported its biggest ever cocaine seizure, more than 8 tons of the drug apparently destined for the Netherlands and found in a massive shipment of timber last month. Interior Minister Eduardo del Castillo announced that the powder cocaine had a street value of about $526 million. The minister said that the largest cocaine seizure in the history of the country was discovered on a truck on an Indian road on December 30th, hidden among a Europe-bound lumber shipment. 4 people were arrested, including a Colombian national Del Castillo described as a big fish in the drug trade. According to the United Nations, Bolivia is the world's 3rd largest producer of coca and cocaine after Colombia and Peru. In Brazil, millions of people lack access to dignified housing, but the cities are full of empty government buildings. Social movements are trying to solve the problem by organizing occupations of vacant buildings and fighting for their conversion to low-income housing. Here is CFR correspondent Brian Muir has more.
For 20 months, 65 homeless families have occupied an abandoned building owned by Brazil's Federal Institute of Geography and Statistics. After fighting successive eviction attempts and winning a legal victory enabling them to stay, this week residents installed plumbing and electricity.
We know that this isn't dignified housing, but it is a housing that we have today. So, at least, we have to set up running water, so there is a dignified way for people to take care of their needs. And we need electricity. I think it's beautiful that I see people using sewing machines today, working because we have electricity now.
The 2022 census shows there are 11.4 million potential housing units available in vacant buildings, more than enough to solve Brazil's housing deficit of around 6 million units. Exercising the constitutionally guaranteed right to occupy property that doesn't perform a social function, social movements pressure the government to convert empty buildings to social housing and pass ownership to the squatters.
We put in fire extinguishers not just because they are important to have, but because the fire department threatened to close our buildings for fire hazard when we began installing the electrical wiring. So the MTSD helped us install a fire prevention system and bring the electrical wiring and plumbing up to legal standards.
Residents of the Maria Firmina occupation now have 2 collective bathrooms per floor, running water and electricity. It's an important step towards gaining their right to own their own dignified housing.
We plan to reform our apartments and we have more rooms. Those who don't have bathrooms in their apartments yet will have them. This will take time, but we know there are going to be more reforms.
Brian Muir, teleSUR, Recife.
We now have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. In the U.S., the Supreme Court said on Friday will decide whether former President Donald Trump can be kept off the ballot because of his efforts to overturn his 2020 election loss, inserting the court squarely in the 2024 presidential campaign. The justices acknowledged the need to reach a decision quickly, as voters will soon begin casting presidential primary ballots across the country. The court agreed to take up Trump's appeal of a case from Colorado stemming from his role in the events that culminated in the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. Colorado's Supreme Court, by a 4-3 vote, ruled last month that Trump should not be on the Republican primary ballot. The decision was the first time the 14th Amendment was used to bar a presidential contender from the ballot. On Friday, Russian authorities announced readiness to evacuate residents of the city of Belgorod due to the Ukrainian attacks. The governor of the Russian province of Belgorod, Vyacheslav Gladkov, stressed that in order to be evacuated, the residents must submit the respective requests. In turn, Gladkov added in case that there are no more spaces available, he will ask his colleagues from other Russian regions for help. For his part, he also assured that after the first shelling of Belgorod at the end of last year, he received dozens of calls from the heads of the neighboring provinces offering support and all necessary resources. So far, the authorities evacuated several families and assured they are doing everything they can and intend to do so without delay. A decision by Senegal's Constitutional Council to reject the candidacy of jailed opposition leader Ousmane Sonko to run in next month's presidential election was described as an electoral farce by his lawyer. The 49-year-old opposition figure, who came third in the 2019 presidential election, has been at the center of a bitter standoff with the state that has lasted more than 2 years and sparked several episodes of deadly unrest. Authorities had previously refused to provide Sonko with all the necessary documents to run in the February 25th poll. They argued that Sonko had been removed from the electoral register after being sentenced in June to 2 years imprisonment for morally corrupting a young person. He has been jailed since the end of July on other charges, including calling for insurrection, conspiracy with terrorist groups, and endangering state security.
It's clear that the cascade of violations of the law is not stopping, and that there is a desire to move towards elections that lack transparency from the outset, and that in any case will not reflect the will of the nation. I think that national and international public opinion will remember that this is an electoral farce that has been organized and that continues to be organized.
Following the ruling, Sonko supporters reacted to Senegal's Constitutional Court move and denounced it as a political strategy to prevent Ousmane Sonko from running.
It's not an election, it's a selection, because he's the leader of the opposition and the most popular candidate in Senegal. No one is disputing that at this stage. There are already people working hard to ensure that his rights are respected and that his candidacy is supported by the people. It's not individuals who are supporting his candidacy, but rather people from every corner of Senegal who want to see this candidate take part.
This decision does not mean the end of our fight. We will not accept subjugation. The last word goes to the people. The state thinks it has won, but it has lost, because sooner or later our will be realized. We're preparing our voter cards, and we will use them to remove them from the leadership of this country. Sonko will govern. He will win sooner or later. They can use all the means of the state to eliminate him, but God is great.
In Bangladesh, 5 people were killed after a passenger train caught fire on Friday. Police suspect arson during unrest ahead of national elections boycotted by the opposition. Fire Department officer Rakibul Hassan said at least 4 carriages caught fire on the Menapol Express, which was arriving in the capital Dhaka from the western city of Jessore. Meanwhile, Police Commander Khan Daker Al-Moin told reporters that 5 people were rescued from the place. Witnesses said the train caught fire at the Gopi Park in an old area of Dhaka not far from the megacity's main railway terminal. An anonymous rescuer told private broadcaster Somoy TV that hundreds of people had rushed to pull people from the burning train.
When we initiated the rescue efforts, we observed multiple lifeless bodies inside the coaches. They were in such a state that identification was not possible. The bodies had turned into charcoal.
As the train approached Dhaka, a coach was already ablaze, and we yelled to alert fellow passengers about the fire. Unfortunately, those in another coach dismissed our warnings, thinking we were joking. It wasn't until they understood the gravity of the situation that the train driver halted the train. However, in just 1 minute, the entire coach was engulfed in flames.
We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our social media on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.